I know this is just a voice message, and you're probably lying in bed listening to this on your phone, but I need you to really focus on what I'm about to tell you, because this story is going to change everything you think you know about how we met, about fate, about coincidences, and about just how far someone will go when they find a person who makes them believe in love at first sight, even if that first sight happened through a computer screen. You remember that comment you left on? That random article about vintage bookstores 3 years ago? The one where you said you wished you could find a place like that in real life, where books felt like treasure in every corner, held a new discovery. Well, that comment, that throwaway, thought you shared with the internet, that was the moment my entire world shifted on its axis, because I read those words, and I knew I'd found something extraordinary, someone who saw magic in the same place as I did. What you don't know, said I, wasn't just casually browsing that article. I had been following your digital footprints for 6 months at that point, not in a creepy way. Well, maybe a little creepy, but not dangerous. More like a detective trying to solve the most fascinating mystery I had ever encountered, which was you, your mind, your heart, your soul, as expressed through carefully curated posts and spontaneous comments scattered across the internet. It started so innocently. I was working late one night, scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself from another boring evening alone, when I stumbled across this photo you had posted of your coffee cup sitting next to an open book with morning sunlight streaming across the pages. And there was something about that image, something about the way you had captured that perfect quiet moment, that made me stop scrolling and actually really look at what you had shared with the world. Your caption was simple, just a few words about finding peace in small moments, but those words hit me like lightning, because I had been searching for exactly that kind of peace for years. And here you were, this stranger, this beautiful stranger, showing me that it actually existed, that someone my age still believed in finding magic in ordinary Tuesday mornings. So I clicked on your profile, and I started reading your posts, your comments, your shared articles, and with every piece of content I consumed, I fell a little deeper into fascination with your mind. You wrote about books like they were old friends. You shared photos of sunsets that you had clearly stopped everything to capture. You left thoughtful comments on other people's posts that showed you really cared about strangers you would never meet. Wait, I need to tell you something else first, something that happened before. I found your coffee photo something that makes this whole story even more impossible, even more like something out of a romantic movie. 'Cause 2 weeks before I discovered your social media, I walked into this little bookstore downtown, just killing time between appointments, and I had this weird feeling like I was supposed to be there, like something important was about to happen. I spent an hour wandering those narrow aisles, running my fingers along book spines, reading random passages, and thinking about how someday I wanted to share a place like that with someone who would understand why old books smell better than new ones, why finding a perfect reading spot is like discovering treasure, why some stories stay with you forever and change the way you see the world are. You're listening to this. Are you following the threads? I'm weaving together here because what I'm about to tell you next is going to blow your mind. What I felt so strongly in that bookstore, what I wished for so desperately, was to find someone who saw books the way you described them in that comment to someone, who understood that bookstores are sacred spaces, someone exactly like you. Except at that point I had no idea you existed. After I found your profile, I became obsessed, but in the most romantic way possible. I started reading every book you mentioned. I visited every coffee shop you posted photos from. I started listening to the music you shared in your stories. I was essentially becoming a better version of myself by learning from your interests, your passions, your way of seeing beauty in unexpected places. I created fake accounts so I could follow your activity without you noticing. I learned which times of day you were most active online. I figured out your posting patterns, your favorite hashtags, the types of content that made you engage with other people. I was building a complete psychological profile, but not for anything sinister, just because understanding you have become my favorite hobby, my obsession, my addiction, my addiction. For months, I lived this parallel life where I knew everything about your daily routine, your moods, your thoughts, your dreams, but you had no idea I existed. It was like being in love with a ghost, except we're real. You were out there living your life completely unaware that someone was falling deeper in love with your mind, your heart, your soul, with every post you shared. Then I had an idea, an elaborate, romantic idea that took 3 months to plan and execute perfectly. I was going to engineer our meeting in the most beautiful way possible. I was going to make sure that when we finally met in person, it would feel like destiny, like the universe conspiring to bring two perfect strangers together. Except it wouldn't be coincidence. It would be the result of careful planning and infinite patience. Hold on. I just remembered something else I need to tell you about first. Something that happened during those months of preparation that almost made me give up this whole plan, that made me question whether what I was doing was romantic or just insane. Because there was this moment when I realized how deep I had fallen into this fantasy, and I scared myself with how much I needed you to love me. Like, actually, let me finish the bookstore story first, because that's where everything comes together. That's where all my planning and dreaming and hoping finally paid off in the most perfect way possible. But first, I need you to understand just how much research went into making that meeting look natural. I had learned that you visited 3 different coffee shops regularly, but there was one post where you mentioned wishing you could find the perfect reading spot somewhere quiet with good lighting and comfortable chairs and amazing coffee. So I spent weeks visiting every cafe in a 10-mile radius until I found one that matched your description perfectly. And then I became a regular there, so the staff would know me. So when you eventually arrived, they would see me as just another customer. But you never came to that cafe. You never showed up, despite it being exactly what you had described wanting. So I had to get more creative. I had to think bigger. I had to create a situation that would guarantee our paths would cross, and that's when I remembered your comment about vintage bookstores, and I had the most brilliant idea, the most romantic gesture disguised as coincidence. I bought that bookstore we borrowed. I actually purchased the entire building, the inventory of the business license, everything, and I spent 2 months renovating it according to every detail you had ever mentioned wanting in a perfect, complete bookstore. Comfortable reading nooks, good lighting, carefully curated selections, cozy atmosphere, amazing coffee. I built your dream bookstore from the ground up just so I could arrange to be working there the day you discovered it all. You listening to this, do you understand what I'm telling you? What you thought was stumbling across this amazing little bookstore that perfectly matched everything you had ever wanted was actually me spending a small fortune and months of planning to create the exact scenario where we would meet, where you would be happy and relaxed and open to conversation with a charming guy behind the counter who seemed to love books as much as you did when you walked through that door for the first time, when you looked around with that expression of pure joy and wonder, when you said it felt like stepping into a fairy tale. I had to excuse myself to the back room because I was so overwhelmed with the emotion that I almost cried right there in front of you. This moment I've been planning and dreaming about for almost a year was finally happening, and it was even better than I had imagined. The way you explored every corner of that store, the way you ran your fingers along the book spines, the way you settled into one of the reading chairs I had chosen specifically because I thought you would love it, the way you looked at me when I brought you that free coffee and said it was just our way of welcoming book lovers. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as I had planned, except for one thing. I had expected to feel satisfied. I had expected to feel like I had won some kind of game, but instead I felt terrified because now that you were real, now that you were there in front of me, talking and laughing and being even more amazing than your online presence has suggested, I realized that all my planning and preparation hadn't actually prepared me for the reality of falling even deeper in love with you in person. What have my words stirred up inside you so far? How are you feeling about this story? About the lengths I went to just to meet you? Are you impressed? Are you disturbed? Are you falling in love with the idea of someone caring about you enough to literally reshape reality around the possibility of winning your heart? Because there's more we borrow. There's so much more, and it gets more complicated and more romantic and more absolutely insane as we go. But I need to know you're still with me. I need to know you're not going to delete this message before I get to the part where everything I've told you so far starts to make sense. Will you understand why I'm confessing all of this now? After 2 years of keeping these secrets, it's at the bookstore that you've come to love so much. The place where we've spent countless hours talking about literature and life and dreams. That space that feels like our special place, our sanctuary. That's not just where we met. It's also my love letter to you, written in wood and books and carefully planned lighting. It's my way of saying that your happiness is worth any amount of effort, any amount of money, any amount of time. Every book I've recommended to you I had read first, not just to make sure you will like it, but to imagine your reaction, to picture you reading the passages that I thought would make you smile, or make you think, or make you feel understood. Every coffee blend we serve was tested and approved based on flavor profiles. I thought it would appeal to your palate that you had described in old posts about your favorite drinks. The comfortable reading chairs, the soft lighting, the carefully curated music playlist, the selection of books that seemed to match your interests so perfectly. It felt like someone had designed the store specifically for you. That's because someone did. That someone was me in every detail, every choice. Every element of that space was chosen with one goal in mind: making you happy, making you feel at home, making you want to stay longer. When you told me the bookstore felt like it was made for you, you were absolutely right, because it was made for you. Every single aspect of it was designed around your preferences, your needs, your dreams, and watching you fall in love with that space was like watching you fall in love with a physical manifestation of how much I adore you. But here's what really gets me. Here's what makes me know that what we have is more than just my elaborate planning paying off. You started changing that bookstore too. You started making suggestions, improvements, ideas that made it even better, and I implemented every single one, not because they were good business decisions, but because they came from you, because your vision, combined with mine, created something more beautiful than either of us could have achieved alone. The poetry section that you said was missing the children's reading corner that you thought would bring families in the monthly book clubs that you suggested, the local author spotlights that you organized. All of those editions came from your heart, your mind, your desire to make our space even more special. And watching you take ownership of that place, watching you make it yours too, was better than any fantasy. I'd imagined you want to know the really crazy part, the part that even I can't explain rationally. Everything. You suggested everything you added to make the bookstore better. Those were all ideas I had considered during the original planning, but decided against, and somehow, without knowing any of that, you instinctively knew exactly what was missing, exactly what would make it perfect. Like we share the same vision, the same dreams, the same understanding of what makes a space feel magical. So, when you write back to me, because I know you're going to write back, because this story isn't finished yet, because I still haven't told you the most important part, the part that explains why I'm confessing all of this tonight, why I can't keep these secrets anymore, why everything is about to change between us, whether we want it to or not. I need you to tell me what you're thinking right now. Are you angry that I manipulated our meeting? Are you flattered that someone would go to such lengths for you? Are you scared of how deep my feelings run? Or are you maybe, just maybe, starting to realize that what you felt when you walked into that bookstore, what you thought was love at first sight, what the place was actually love at first sight, with the man who created created it specifically for you because there's one more thing, one final piece of this puzzle that I haven't shared yet. Something that happened last week. Something that changes everything. And I promise you, when you hear it, you'll understand why. I had to tell you all of this. Why keeping it secret any longer would have been impossible. Why? Our story is about to begin, Pharrell. Instead of just existing in my carefully planned fantasy world,